Hello and welcome back to another reaction. In this occasion, Hataraku Saibo Cells at Work, episode 10. Yeah, last time we got how the Commander Cell, the Commander T Cell and our Killer T Cell start their useful life, let's say. And I love, the contrast in what they are now and what they were before. Again, obviously, we cannot translate everything exactly as this is happening. The processes in our body are completely different. But still, it is fascinating to see in the storytelling perspective how can you manage your characters, how you manage to make them interesting, and how do you take their fixed personalities, their personalities they have by the moment you start to watch the show and kind of say, okay, this is why, or they were like this before. So yeah, it was a fascinating travel to the past. And again, I don't think it's way too much past, perhaps a couple of days ago for us. But obviously, if you take that into the context of lifespan of a cell, yeah, it was eons ago. So yeah, it makes sense, and I love that episode because we met three cells that we actually don't see that often, at least not in depth. We are kind of accustomed to see the red blood cell and the white blood cell. So yes, and it was a nice change. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to see our protagonist, because yes, the red and white cell are kind of our protagonists, but it's entertaining to see how the world expands beyond those two. Anyway, I think I'm blabbling too much, so yeah, let's just cut all of these and watch the episode, shall we? Okay, I'm back. I just watched a second time the 10th episode of the series. And yeah, it started in a very similar way as last episode, in which we saw our red blood cell. Yeah, the kind of the same premise, and kind of that she's getting used to doing her job by herself. Of course, this gives place to a smug face when her senpai reminds her that, well, that is what is supposed to be happening every single time. So yeah, she just went down to earth after that. Of course, the senpai is still worried, and she said something that she's going to be regretting later on, because yeah, on an anime you never said that, oh, don't worry, nothing is going to happen, it's not like I'm attracted by luck or something. And yes, after the opening, after the intro, it comes a new virus, a new bacteria, and it starts to attack several red cells. Among those, of course, is our protagonist, Red Cell. She's been rescued by another type of defendant cell, in this case a monocyte cell. The guys that were in these suits, kind of, I don't know, nuclear disposal suits. Yeah, like, I don't know. Those suits always reminds me of a nuclear plant when they are wearing it and they have to be protected by for the radioactivity of the several materials. That is what it reminds me of. But anyway, it was protected and it was seriously strong. The guy was, well, what I assume was a dude. It was seriously strong. It was just beating the crap out of a virus with their bare hands, of course. And that is genuinely impressive. Our white cell arrives a little bit later, after this monocyte gives the thumbs up to the red cell, because apparently within this mass they cannot speak, or at least they cannot speak clearly, or they don't want to show their identity, and it just goes away and doing their stuff. They gave us a little bit of an explanation, not a very deep one, because the only thing we learn from this small explanation is, of course, they can roam free through all the body, and of course there is only 7% of these cells that compose the blood in our body, let's say. So yes, not a lot of information, but we return to the nasal part of our body, which is treated like a hot spring kind of resort. But anyway, it is kind of cute, and we're still following this monocyte cell that is working and is trying to protect everybody from viruses and all that. And we were reminded that yes, the red blood cells cannot consume anything but it's sugar. So yes, it's kind of fun, the idea. Then of course we receive a major invasion, because everything before this was kind of peaceful. Even with the invasion of the previous virus, I don't know what the hell was that. It was kind of calm. There weren't any adventures, too much happiness, and of course you kind of are waiting for the moment in which something is going to go wrong, because yes, if not, that will be a very, very boring episode. And something did. A villain that we saw before, the Staphylococcus aureus. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, because that is not English, that is, if I'm not mistaken, Latin. But yeah, it is a fascinating one, because we know that she was defeated. We know that. That kind of gives us confidence. Oh yes, the white cells are going to get into action. Obviously, we know too that for the episode to be a success, for it to be interesting for us, it needs to be a little bit different. And yes, it was. Yeah, the response of the white cell was almost immediate, and all of them attacked these cells and start to destroy them without major problem. And kind of we remember that we saw this virus before, this bacteria before, but there was a secret plan here. They kind of fuse, and first they form kind of a grape, kind of grapes. So yeah, it was odd. It was odd to see this fusion of bacteria, which is something I'm not sure. I guess it's several of them, if they are together, if they form a colony, they form this kind of grape-like form. That's why it was named like that. Because yeah, according to the same anime, Staphylococcus means grape-like. So yeah, perhaps that's the reason. But something else happened. In this case, they fuse together and they form a gigantic Staphylococcus aureus, which is something I never hear about. I don't know if this is something that really happens, or it's just a representation of a lot of bacteria fused together or joined together to invade the body. That's what I interpreted as. That yeah, I don't think they form a super mecha Staphylococcus afarensis. That will be freaking amazing, but very dangerous for our body. But yeah, I guess this is kind of giving a little bit of drama to the situation, a little bit of, I don't know, writer's liberty in this case. And, oh yes, but this is an anime. Let's go all out with giant monsters. The only thing was missing is a giant robot, a mecha, and we will have an amazing fight in our hands. But yes, it was kind of weird. And yes, there is a reason behind this is even stronger, because they explain that some viruses use kind of the same fibrin, I think it's called, that the platelets used before. They can secrete some substance that can transform into something similar like the fibrin, to protect themselves, to protect against obviously the white cells of the body. So yes, it is an interesting one. I don't think the electricity rays or this energy are exactly well representing of something that the virus or the bacteria can do. But again, this is an anime, we kind of get used to that stuff. And yes, we receive our explanation from obviously the narrator. In this case is Coagulis. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I have never heard the term before. And yes, that is the enzyme that brings out the coagulation of the blood. Again, this kind of a protective barrier around this virus, so they can protect against the white cells. And of course, when everything seems to be lost, because apparently this new Staphylococcus was taking revenge from the cousin that we saw in one of the first few episodes. I think it was a platelet episode. And just before they were about to destroy them, the monocytes arrive. And yes, oh yes, we're going to see how powerful they are. Because we kind of knew that they were powerful, because they were always hanging out with the macrophage, and now we have our explanation as to why. Yes, they start to attack and they're carrying giant weapons just like the macrophages. And they start to advance. They are really serious business, or you think they are very serious business, and all of that. And this is the great about this, but when they start speaking, and they speak obviously, and their mannerisms are exactly like the macrophages. Wait, what? What the hell is going on? And of course, the difference here is that there is this, well, invisible barrier for us, for the anime, that is inside of the blood vessel and outside of the blood vessel. My guess, obviously, within the body is a little bit more clear, but yeah, according to what the anime said, once the monocytes are out of the blood vessel, they transform into macrophages. That's how I understand that. So, I guess all monocytes could become macrophages, but not all macrophages are monocytes, because we have seen them together, the monocytes and the macrophages. So that's what I assume. Of course, going back to the anime, the Staphylococcus attacks, but of course, we know that macrophages are a force to be reckoned with. So yeah, they just beat the crap out of the Staphylococcus, I think it was? Staphylococcus, sorry. And of course, that's when these bacteria realize that, yes, these are macrophages, yes, these are seriously crazy strong in their own words. So yes, they kind of separate all the mini Staphylococcus, separate, and they start to run away. Of course, the leader is not happy and starts to attack, but of course, is beaten within seconds for the amazing power of the macrophages. And of course, the rest that pretended to escape couldn't, because, yeah, they are weak. They are not powerful enough to defend themselves against the macrophages. And of course, that's it for the invasion, and they end up cleaning. They start to speak with the white cells, and oh no, we were late to the party, thanks for holding them back for a while, so we can act. And of course, we figured out that the monocyte that saved our red cell is probably the same macrophage that we saw here. And yeah, obviously they treat it like this is a dame, a lady, and yeah, said, oh, the ladies must have their secrets, and of course, yeah, that's it. They gave us a little bit of information about the macrophage, that they act as, of course, killer machines when they are dealing with viruses and bacteria. They are kind of cleaners when they have to remove all the bacteria from the scene. They act like caretakers, sorry, when they are kind of raising the blood cells for action, and all of that, all the different roles that a macrophage has. And yes, a terrible one, which is not mentioned in here, after the useful life of several of our cells that we saw here, the red blood cell, the platelets, I think even the white cell, they are absorbed by the macrophage. So yeah, that is another function that is not very nice for the anime, but okay for us, because that is what is worth it. And yes, we learn a lot more about the macrophage, and the monocytes were kind of obviously in the shadows for us, which is something I'm very, very thankful for, because the information about the macrophage has been spread out through all the anime so far. I still want to see their origin. I still want to see how they are created. Perhaps it's not very exciting, perhaps it's the same as the rest of the cells, but I'm really curious about that. So yeah, it's still in my kind of wish list is the fact that I want to see the brain cells, and of course the macrophage, how they are formed. Yeah, a good episode, a fascinating episode. Not a lot of commentary here, because yeah, a lot of the information that we receive here is information that we got before, and the little information is kind of quick paced and not very complicated to understand, or at least I think it's not that complicated. Obviously, I don't have to repeat that, I'm not a medical student or anything like that, so yeah, it's a lot of new information for me. But anyway, as I said before, I exhausted the topic of this episode. There is not much to say. The only thing is really left to say for me is thank you for your attention and see you on the next one. Bye!
Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, give it a like so the algorithm from YouTube will help me out. And check my other videos, share them, and also why not subscribe to my channel and join this community. And as always, I want to thank you for your attention, your likes, and even your dislikes, your comments, which is something I always look forward to read. And yeah, once more, thanks and see you on the next one.